I am just going to wait for me to get my notification. There's my notification. Okay. I am sorry about all of the shenanigans. I'm going to stop trying to do that. I know nobody ever like pops in the stream right away, so it is what it is. I try to give everybody a chance to know that I'm going to be going live. But anyways, here's the real live stream. I'll probably extend the last one and then just keep this one. So, as you see in my description, what does my description say? Oh yeah, we're gonna start doing weekly live streams where I read creepy stories that I find, and then I'm also gonna, you know how I do, I link wherever I found the article or wherever I'm taking content from. I always link it in the description. Let's see. That's not what I wanted. There we go. So let's get. You always catch me with that. Oh, hold on. Let me go back here and look at myself for a second. So, why can't I move this? Oh, there we go. Well, that looks so funny. Anyways, for the ones in the back, my name is Angel, and I like all things that are mysterious. I'm a little inconsistent, but there's a lot of life being thrown at me currently. Just bear with me. I'll eventually get it back together. I do have plans for spooky season. It's my favorite. So I tend to be a lot more consistent and post a lot more content around Halloween and spooky season. So something about it, I don't know. Gets me out of a slump that I'm usually in. But anyways, let's get into it. So my friend that we have a love hate relationship with is Ranker. But I found this article, thought it was kind of cool. I did not read it. It's always the titles. Their titles always get me. Says you probably have never heard of these 16 creepy and allegedly true stories. And it's by Rosa Pasquella. Hmm, probably didn't say it right. Oh, and it's from 2019, so it's like 6 years old. Anyways, it says with internet access as it is today, it's easy to find yourself feel like, hold on, it's easy to feel like you've heard it all. Scary stories, know 'em all. The web is a plethora of all things creepy. So if you dig enough, you'll never run out of horror stories to haunt your ever waking hour. We sought out some of the creepiest, most horrific true stories that you've probably never heard of. Redditor served out some truly insane, scary stories, guaranteeing you disrupted sleep for the foreseeable future. Does the video go with it? I don't think so. What's this?
Pitch perfect, ouch. This particular castrato was called Bellino, and he captivated Casanova. The young Venetian mused that Bellino was actually a woman, and after a game of identity revelation, Casanova was proven correct. Turns out, Bellino was actually a young actress in disguise. She claimed to disguise herself as a contralto to get roles on stage that were not available to women. Though Casanova refers to her as Teresa Lanti, spelled with a T, historians guess that she might have been Teresa Landi, spelled with a D. She also may have been Artemisia Lanti or Angela Calori. all of whom ended up on the London stage. Casanova and his Bellino began an affair that ultimately produced a child, Casanova's illegitimate son, Cesarino. Casanova's life dramatically changed course in March of 1746. While he was in town celebrating Carnival, he noticed Senator Matteo Giovanni Bragadin collapse in his gondola, suffering a stroke. Casanova took charge, immediately directing Bragadin's gondoliers to a surgeon. However, the surgeon's methods, bleeding Bragadin and rubbing a mercury-based ointment on his chest, might have killed the poor noble had Casanova himself not intervened. He saved Bragadin's life, and the bystanders claim the young Venetian surely must have wielded supernatural powers to have pulled it off. As a show of thanks, Bragadin supposedly became a patron for Casanova, who suddenly had the wealth and connections he so long craved. In 1746, Casanova was in Padua, where he met a woman he calls Ancilla, a local courtesan. Ancilla ran a gambling den, and Casanova lavished her with his time, money, and affection. He also quickly learned he wasn't her only lover. Count Medina was also known as Ancilla's favorite lover, and he also excelled at cards. Casanova felt the two had conspired to cheat him. He demanded satisfaction. So Medina returned the young Venetian's money, and then challenged him to a duel by swords. Though Casanova escaped the duel unharmed, he wounded Medina and gained an enemy for the rest of his life. Casanova would go on to have at least one more duel over the course of his adventurous life. Casanova spent 2 years in Paris, living there from 1750 to 1752. While he was there, he devoted himself to learning French, French kissing, meeting important people, and getting himself into one scrape after another. Casanova
I'm not gonna lie to you. I have no idea what this has to do. Creepy and allegedly true stories. History's most legendary lover. I don't see how it's a creepy story. Anyways, that's why I was making so many faces because I'm like, I don't know why this video is plastered here in the middle. Anyways, and you see how it's loaded with ads. It's their favorite. I try to get rid of them. Anyways, we're getting out of that because I don't understand what that has to do with what we were talking about. It says audio recording exists of Jim Jones preaching as the Jonestown community ends their own lives. There is a recording of Jim Jones' speech during the night at Jonestown where the hundreds of people drank arsenic laden juice and took their own lives. You can hear them perishing in the background, and his sheer delirium is absolutely chilling. Should we listen to it? Is it gonna get am I gonna get banned? Let's find out. If you don't want to hear very sadistic stuff, because I believe this is just a recording of the speech. I don't think it's a video, but viewer discretion advised. If you are sensitive to extreme content, please click away for at least 5 minutes. I don't know. I don't know how long this speech is. Give it 5 minutes. I'm curious. I don't understand. Is it in here? I don't understand. This was the link with it. I don't understand. You click here. I'm going to 44 minutes long. really is 44 minutes long. We're not gonna listen. We're not gonna listen to the whole thing. I changed my mind. I don't think I can. I don't know where the. Hold on. Let me maybe turn my audio down because that was like extreme. Let me turn my audio down. Okay.
How very much I've loved you. How very much I've tried my best to give you the good life. But in spite of all of that I've tried, a handful of our people, with their lies, have made our life impossible. There's no way to detach ourselves from what's happened today. Not only we're in a compound situation, not only are there those who have left and committed the betrayal of the century. Some have stolen children from others, and they're in pursuit right now to kill them because they stole their children. And we are sitting here waiting on a powder keg. I don't think this is what we want to do with our babies. I don't think that's what we had in mind to do with our babies. It was said by the greatest of prophets from time immemorial, no man takes my life from me, I lay my life down. So to sit here and wait for the catastrophe that's going to happen on that airplane, it's going to be a catastrophe. Almost happened here. Almost happened. The congressman was nearly killed here. But you can't steal people's children. You can't take off with people's children without expecting a violent reaction. And that's not so unfamiliar to us either. Even if we were Judeo-Christian, if we weren't communists, the world, the kingdom suffereth violence, and the violence shall take it by force. If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace. We've been so betrayed. We have been so terribly betrayed. But we tried, and as Jack Beam often said, I don't know where he's at right this moment. Where's Jack? He said, if this only worked one day, it was worthwhile. What's going to happen here in a matter of a few minutes is that one of those people on that plane is going to shoot the pilot. I know that. I didn't plan it, but I know it's going to happen. They're going to shoot that pilot, and down comes that plane into the jungle. And we had better not have any of our children left when it's over, because they'll parachute in here on us. I'm telling you just as plain as I know how to tell you. I've never lied to you. I never have lied to you. I know that's what's going to happen. That's what he intends to do. And he will do it. He'll do it. Fortunately, being so bewildered with many pressures on my brain, seeing all these people behave so treasonous, it was just too much for me to put together. But I now know what he was telling me, and it'll happen. If the plane gets in the air, even. So my opinion is that we be kind to children and be kind to seniors and take the portion like they used to take in ancient Greece and step over quietly, because we are not committing suicide. It's a revolutionary act. We can't go back. They won't leave us alone. They're now going back to tell more lies, which means more congressmen, and there's no way we can survive. Anybody wish to? Anyone that has any dissenting opinion, please speak. Yes. You can have an opportunity, but if our children are left, we are going to have them butchered. We can make a strike, but we'll be striking against people that we don't want to strike against. We'd like to get the people who cause this stuff. And if some people here are prepared to know how to do that, to go in town and get Timothy Stone, but there's no plane. There's no plane. You can't catch a plane in time. He's responsible for it. He brought these people to us. He and Deanna Myrtle. But people in San Francisco will not be idle over this. They'll not take our death in vain, you know. Yes, Christine. Is it too late for Russia? Here's why it's too late for Russia. They killed. They started to kill. That's why it makes it too late for Russia. Otherwise, I'd said, Russia, you bet your life. But it's too late. I can't control these people. They're out there. They've gone with their guns, and it's too late. And once we kill anybody,
It's enough of that. We'll come back to that because that's insane. It is absolutely chilling. Anyway, and that weird Casanova video, I don't understand. Okay, so the next one. Man treats girlfriend's child like a dog, eventually leading to the child's passing. The baby P story really fucked with my head. In the UK, a couple of years ago, the boyfriend of this woman started beating her son. The things he did were horrific. Training his dog to bite him, pulling out his fingernails and toenails, smashing his fingers, throwing him in the air and letting him hit the floor, and tossing him around, calling it roughhousing. The boyfriend eventually did this so hard that one night he snapped baby P's spine in half. One of the things that stuck with me was when I read that he was trained to be submissive, and when the boyfriend would enter the room, baby P would automatically put his head to the floor. When I first read about it, I had nightmares for weeks. There's a special place in hell for people like that. Anyways, next one. Russian soldiers during World War II force a German man to watch as his wife is assaulted by entire platoon. It is in the German memoir Sniper on the Eastern Front. It is March 1945, and the Germans have been pushed back by the Russians into Germany and Czechoslovakia. You guys know I'm horrible with names. He was scouting some German village in the Suden Sudetenland. I'm sure I said it wrong. A Russian platoon drove around, so he hid in a caved outbuilding. So this lone sniper had a front row seat to the horror to what was to follow. Platoon was plundering the village until it ran into this German couple. The Russians then tied up the husband and forced him to watch as the Russians, in order of ranking personnel, assaulted the wife one by one. She was screaming in agony, fell in and out of consciousness, and was in so much pain. When the last Russian was finished with her, he shoved a flare gun up in the woman's vagina and fired it. The woman screamed out the most animalistic, brutal, and haunting scream the German has ever heard, as the flare was slowly burning the woman's insides and blood flare residue flames were rushing out of her body, and then she slumped over, perished. German reinforcements soon arrived and Slade wounded the platoon. The husband went into his house, grabbed an object, I recall it was a shovel, and hacked the remaining wounded Russians on the ground until they were all perished. Some of the Germans tried stopping him, but the lone sniper held them back. It's insane. I have no words. I don't even know what to say. Next one. Man hides in farmhouse attic for days before slaying the entire family with an axe. I am not going to be able to pronounce that name. I'm going to give it a go. The story of Hinter Kafik is about a guy who sneaks onto a farm and lives there in the attic for several days before slaying them all one by one with an axe. The next one. I've not heard of that one either. Woman disappears during cruise is believed to have been sold into sexual slavery. Amy Bradley disappearance. She disappeared from a cruise ship en route to Curacao. I'm sure I said it wrong. In 1998. And years later, photos were emailed to her parents that very much resembled her and looked like she had been sold into sexual slavery. Multiple people have also claimed to see her through the years. The Wikipedia page on her case listing, wait, the Wikipedia page on her case lists the sightings, and there's an FBI missing persons report, including sketches of people she was seen with in 2005. The whole story is just chilling and terrifying. Homeless woman lives in occupied house's attic for almost a year, undetected. A 58-year-old man living alone in Japan started hearing noises at night and noticing things out of place in his house. He installed video cameras. Turns out a homeless woman had been living in his attic and cupboards for almost a year in his house, undetected. But wait, how did he know it was for a year? Because he caught her, right? So he asked her. Got it. It'll get there. Family of albinos in Tanzania were dismembered so their limbs could be used for traditional witchcraft. I saw something on National Geographic a while ago about the slayings of albinos in Tanzania. There was one case of a family with two albino sisters, one of which had her arms and legs hacked off in the middle of the night for sale on the black market. The other albino laid next to her sister for the remainder of the night as she bled out. They live in a very secluded hut with no electricity. Albino limbs are reportedly worth a lot in certain parts of Africa for use in traditional witchcraft.
In the kitchen, baking cookies. This is just another chapter. I'm not done yet.
Oh no, we're okay. I didn't know what it was, right? America's first serial slayer disguised his mansion as a lodging for tourists visiting the World's Fair. Oh yeah. The story of H. Holmes, America's first serial slayer. The guy built a castle and slayed as many as 200 people all over the States and in Canada as well. The Devil in the White City is a really good read that I don't know that word. Juxtaposes his exploits with the pomp and ceremony surrounding the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. A lot of commercials. Look at that. Ads, I mean. Anyways, HBO documentary exposes dangerous child. There's an HBO documentary called Child of Rage about a 6-year-old with reactive attachment disorder who repeatedly tortured animals, sexually molested her brother, and attempted to slay her adoptive parents by coming into their bedroom at night with a knife. The doc shows her calmly telling her therapist about the incidents very soon after they happened. Really creepy and sad. Canada's youngest slayer ends family. Look up the youngest slayer in Canada. She, 12, and her coked up brother. I did not expect that to say that. She, 12, and her coked up boyfriend, 23, slayed her parents and younger brother. Oh, I think I might know this one. Why? Because her parents didn't want her dating her boyfriend. He's like almost double her age. Anyways, after the slaying, they proceeded to sleep together. When they were both caught and imprisoned, they got engaged. She had already been released and is rumored to be going to university in Alberta. I think it's so twisted. Agreed. Oh, I like the short ones. They're trying to. I see. I'm getting tricked because these are like small and they're like little snippets or whatever. Anyways, convicted slayer and cannibal lives freely in Japan. I know this one too, and I can't pronounce that guy's name. There's a guy, Isai Sagawa, who became famous after being convicted of slaying and cannibalism, and lives as a free man in Japan to this day. I love shipwrecks. I mean, not like that, but like stories about them, because I will never go on a boat. Mm-mm. Very fascinated about the stories, though. Edgar Allan Poe piece predicts shipwreck tragedy 50 years before it happened. Edgar Allan Poe's The Narrative of Arthur Gordon Pym, 1838, was about four shipwreck survivors stranded in a boat before they slayed and ate a cabin boy, Richard Parker. In 1884, a boat was stranded with only four survivors. Three of the men ended and ate the cabin boy, also named Richard Parker. Huh, no coincidences. Anyways, Canadian pig farmers slay harlots and feed bodies to the pigs. There were pig farmers from British Columbia, Canada, who would bring harlots to their farm, slay them, and then feed them to the pigs. I know this story. I think I talked about that before. The number of women is up to 27, but who knows how many others they got away with. I do believe I talked about that before as well. I know you guys see all these ads, right? I think it's worse on the computer than it is on my phone. See, usually when I do these, I do them on my phone, but I also usually record them with the GoPro. But anyways, WW2 plane crashes in Japan. U.S. rescues only one of 9 survivors. During World War II, an American airplane crashed near the Japanese island of Chichijima. There were 9 servicemen on board. You guys know I can't pronounce names. One was rescued by an American submarine. The other 8 were taken in by the Japanese. Don't, but that's not the weird part. They gotta be kidding me, right? The one serviceman who was rescued, that was George H.W. Bush. Couple find lost, soiled children abandoned in the middle of the road. I was with my wife and children, driving to a local Walgreens, when my wife suddenly stopped the car and pointed into the street. I looked and saw 2 young children in the middle of the road in diapers, wandering around and looking confused. My wife ran out as I stayed in the car with my kids, picked up the smaller one, and took the hand of the older one to walk them into the parking lot of the Walgreens. Close, I could tell that both diapers were horribly soiled, as in not changed in days. They were both dirty and smelled awful. It was a fairly cold and was raining some, so the children were very cold and shivering. We immediately called the police and waited with the children until they arrived. The younger child was approximately 2 years old, and as my wife comforted him, he just kind of laid there and looked happy to be getting attention. The older child was about 4 or 5, and as I stated, was still in a diaper. He couldn't speak and looked very frightened of anyone getting near him. He would grunt and whimper, but seemed to have no way to communicate at all. He had to gently, wait, I had to gently keep him in the area as he was trying to run off, but finally got him to calm down by wrapping a warm blanket around him and humming to him. The cops arrived about 10 to 15 minutes and took our statement of what had happened. We told them our story, continuing to comfort the children until a team of paramedics got to the scene to make sure the kids didn't need medical attention for exposure, hypothermia, etc. And after a while, maybe an hour after we had first found them, a strung out woman wandered onto the scene and says casually that the children are hers. She is obviously high and tries claiming to the cops that the children were only gone for 5 to 10 minutes. The cops called her on her bullshit and spent the next couple of minutes yelling, asking her how she could let her children wander a fairly busy street, almost naked, in the rain and cold. A man who identifies himself as their dad arrived, shirtless and filthy, also strung out. The cop, asked by the older boy, was not speaking, and they said he never did, not elaborating why that was. When asked where they lived, oh, I can't. My back hurts really bad too, so I'm having a really hard time getting comfortable. Blah, 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 blah. When they were asked where they lived, they told conflicting stories, obviously trying to lie to the cop to make it seem the children had not wandered far. But from what it seemed, they lived at least several blocks away. The mom tried to take the children, but the police stepped in and told her that they were in police care now and would be assessed by a CPS rep at the police station before they would be able to return home. Not long after this, we were told we could go as they had gathered all they needed from us. I never found out what happened to those kids. Ew. Hold on. Forgot to plug it in. I knew I was forgetting to do something. Hold on, I forgot. Um, Not long. Okay, I never found out what happened to those kids. I hope that they got the help that they obviously needed. I am still bothered by the whole event. I wonder what kind of life they had led to leave them filthy, mute, and alone in the middle of a city street. Hold on a minute. I'm sure you had plenty of ads to keep you busy while I was gone. Looks cool. They always be trying to get me. Anyways, coal mine fires started in the 1960s continues to burn underground today. I know this one too. I don't know exactly where it is. Centrally, Centrella, Pennsylvania. I'm sure I didn't say it right. It was a pretty decent sized coal mining town. And in the 60s, a fire, which I believe was started at a landfill, was not put out completely. Caught an exposed coal vein on fire, and the fire burns underground to this day. In the 80s, the government started paying people to leave and buying up all the land and destroying the homes so no one could live there. Since they didn't exactly force people to leave, the town still has a population of about 10. There's enough coal underground to keep the fire burning for a very long time. I've been there before, and in person, it is really eerie. It's a bunch of empty streets with one or two houses, a church, and some cemeteries. One part of the highway, which was closed off and rerouted because of the fire, is all cracked and misshapen. So the road is really uneven. One of the weirdest things is that steam that comes out through the ground. It almost looks like little hot springs everywhere, but it's really all coming from the fire below. And that was the last story. Wait, maybe they'll show me that other one again. Oh, how long have we been on this one? I don't think it's going to tell me, is it? Like a half hour. I like the Bermuda Triangle. And there's only 9. I think we can do that. All right. Oh, it's another Ranker article, too. 9 terrifying stories about the Bermuda Triangle. Lyra Radford, and it was on July 3rd, 2024. The, the Bermuda Triangle, also known as the Devil's Triangle, sits in the ocean between Bermuda, Puerto Rico, and the tip of Florida. This western region of the North Atlantic Ocean is shrouded in mystery. An absurdly large number of ships and planes have had accidents under mysterious circumstances, and, in some of the creepiest Bermuda Triangle cases, have vanished without a trace while traveling over this dangerous stretch of water. Scientists have attempted to make sense out of the strange phenomenon surrounding the Bermuda Triangle. The methane gas theory attributes the disappearances of ships to rapid sinking caused by methane gas escaping from beneath the ocean floor, reducing the density of the water. But this doesn't explain the planes. Theories have ranged from electronic fogs and magnetic poles interfering with navigational equipment to freak waves and an unusual seafloor capable of first battering and then swallowing these massive metal structures. Some believe aliens are responsible. Others think it's a portal to another world. One of the most outrageous claims is that leftover technology from the lost city of Atlantis is located there and causing interference. So many theories, none of them able to provide a definite explanation for why more planes and ships have disappeared within this triangular section of the ocean than anywhere else in the world. This list contains some of the freakiest Bermuda Triangle cases in history. Oh, and I probably know all of them. 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers disappeared on Flight 19. I do know this one. Cool little planes, too. Flight 19 is one of the most famous Bermuda Triangle cases in history. Hold on a minute. I can't get comfortable either. I can't get comfortable. Oh, I haven't been paying attention in chat either. Okay. Okay. Um, in December 1945, a group of 5 U.S. Navy Avenger torpedo bombers, collectively known as Flight 19, left Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a 3 hour exercise and vanished. Flight leader Lieutenant Charles C. Taylor became convinced his compass was malfunctioning and that they were flying in the wrong direction. I really hate that they have all these ads. My eyes are trying to look at all the ads too. Was malfunctioning and that they were flying in the wrong direction. A storm blew in. I wish I could delete them all. Wish I can't though. What if I go? No, here. Nope, that doesn't help. Convinced his compass was malfunctioning and that they were flying in the wrong direction. A storm blew in, and Flight 19 became increasingly disoriented. Taylor thought they were over the Florida Keys, but that didn't seem possible. It had been less than an hour since he'd made his scheduled pass over hen and chicken schools in the Bahamas. Yet he was convinced his planes had somehow drifted hundreds of miles off course to the Florida Keys. Disagreements over whether they should be flying east or west were heard over the radio. Taylor's final words came through, preparing his men for an ocean landing as they ran out of fuel and then static. The Navy deployed search planes. A pair of PBM Mariner seaplanes took off and followed in the footsteps of Flight 19, but disappeared from the radar and, much like Flight 19, were never seen or heard from again. The Ellen Austin found a mysterious derelict ship and then it vanished. Oh, and these are the cool ships I really like. The Ellen Austin is a particularly unnerving tale. It was 1880 and the ship was bound for New York from London when it came across a derelict ship. In order to tow it back, they spared a few of their own experienced crew members and the two set sail together. A storm separated the two vessels, the derelict vanished, and the Ellen Austen sailed back to London. There is one more report of the same derelict being spotted again, but, mysteriously enough, a completely different crew from those who left the Ellen Austen were aboard. The USS Cyclops was doomed from the start. The mystery surrounding the USS Cyclops is also the largest human loss on a non combat ship in U.S. naval history. In March 1918, the ship left Brazil, headed for Baltimore. It was overloaded and had a cracked cylinder in its starboard engine, rendering that engine inoperational. Still, the ship took off, down one engine, and seemingly doomed from the start. The U.S. Cyclops had to make an unscheduled stop in Barbados because water was slopping over the waterline, putting her in danger of sinking. After getting rid of the excess water, the ship continued on, but what happened after it left Barbados is still unknown because the USS Cyclops and all 306 of its crew and passengers vanished without a trace. See, that's why I don't want to get on a boat. It's why I don't get on boats. It's not safe. All right. The BSS, the BSAA Star Tiger did everything it could to avoid bad weather. See, I don't like planes either. Same thing. On January 28th, 1948, the British American Airlines passenger plane Star Tiger was preparing to take off from Lisbon for Bermuda with a short refueling stop in Santa Maria. I'll never get it together, you guys. Before they even left Lisbon, however, Captain Brian W. McMillan ordered everyone off the plane because there was a problem with one of the engines. 2.5 hours later, passengers reboarded and the plane took off for Santa Maria. The Star Tiger made it to Santa Maria with no trouble, but the weather was so bad that Captain McMillan decided to postpone the second half of their trip. The next day, January 29th, the flight to Bermuda resumed. The winds were still strong, but Captain McMillan believed that if he kept the aircraft below 2,000 feet, they would avoid the worst of it and easily make it to Bermuda. There were no distress calls, no response to any attempts to reach them. The Star Tiger just disappeared. A 5 day rescue operation was launched by the USAF, but it turned up nothing. There were 25 passengers, a crew of 6, and a WW2 hero, Air Marshal Sir Arthur Cunningham, on board. They were never heard from again. A C a C-54 Skymaster flew directly into a storm. The plane crashes into the ocean during a bad storm, killing all 6 on board. It's tragic, but it makes sense, seeing as they were facing inclement weather, right? But the strange thing about the crash of the C-54 Skymaster is why it was heading into the storm in the first place. If it stayed on its original intended course, there wouldn't have been a storm to strike them down. The pilot was experienced and the navigator was a class 2. They were both qualified and knew how to avoid storms. They just did. On July 3rd, 1947, Major Ralph Ward and 5 other crew members left Bermuda and went off course almost immediately. They were so far south of their scheduled course and then suddenly made a course change north and then southwest, flying straight for the eye of the storm. 2 very faint SOS calls came in to the ground operator. They were very low and garbled, and then there was nothing but silence. Debris was found about 209 miles northeast of Florida and reflected sudden destruction, common in severe storms. But how this huge blunder was made in the first place remains a topic for debate, especially among people who believe in extraterrestrials. Another plane. It's always, I will not get on. I just won't get on a boat either. And we're talking about Bermuda Triangle, so it's gonna be one of the two. It's not like it's gonna be a fucking car in the middle of the ocean, Angel. Anyways, an airborne transport DC-3 was 20 minutes from landing when it ceased radio contact. On December 28, 1948, an airborne transport DC-3 took off from Puerto Rico for Miami, Florida. Captain Robert Lindquist sent a radio transmission reporting the plane's position and an ETA of 4:05 a.m. The next report was sent at 4:13 a.m., saying the DC-3 was 50 miles south of Florida with only 20 minutes left before landing. That was the last transmission, and the DC-3 never showed up. 3 crew members and 28 passengers simply vanished 20 minutes before landing. Flight 441 441 was carrying U.S. naval officers and their families when it vanished. It's a funny looking plane, huh? No. But anyways, in 1954, a U.S. military carrier aircraft full of naval officers, was it Navy water? Okay, and their families disappeared. The officers were being transferred from Maryland to Lahaz, a military base in the Azores. You know I'm gonna botch all these names. I'm sorry. I can't get it together. A total of 42 passengers. Hey, I'm 42 years old. No coincidences. A total of 42 passengers simply vanished within the region of the Bermuda Triangle. No distress calls were made, no bodies or debris were ever found. The pilot was more than capable, as was the plane, until it reached the Bermuda Triangle. There wasn't a concrete cause that could be determined. The Board of Investigation simply stated the possibility of structural failure during transit of frontal weather cannot be discounted in this incident or accident, but the possibility appears remote. What happened to Flight 441 remains one of the biggest mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. The SS El Faro was found intact, sitting upright on the ocean floor. Oh, we an ocean. The Bermuda Triangle claimed another victim on October 1st, 2015. The container ship SS El Faro left Jacksonville, Florida, for Puerto Rico with 33 people on board on September 30th, 2015. The captain charted a course leading them a safe distance away from a tropical storm. The next day, October 1st, 2015, that tropical storm had turned into a Category 3 hurricane, and it was circling the ship with winds of 90 miles per hour. Hurricane Hurricane Joaquin bombarded the vessel with waves of up to 40 feet before looping around and going back the way it came. After weeks of search, the SS El Faro was found in one piece, sitting upright 15,000 feet below the ocean surface. Witchcraft was only 1 mile offshore when it disappeared. In December 1967, Captain Dan Burak climbed aboard Witchcraft his luxury cabin cruiser and set sail from Miami with a friend, Roman Catholic priest, Father Patrick Horgan. They were just far enough out to get a view of the Christmas lights on the shore. At 9 p.m., Captain Burak radioed the Coast Guard to report he hit something. He didn't think the damage was too bad, but he would need a tow back in. He even said he lit up some flares. The Coast Guard took off immediately. It took them only 20 minutes to reach Witchcraft's location, but by the time they arrived, the ship was gone. Burak was an experienced and cautious yachtsman. He'd even installed a special flotation device in the boat to make it unsinkable. They gotta stop saying that. Even if the boat flooded, a part of the hull would still float, but nothing was visible to the Coast Guard. There was no wreckage or flares. They searched 24,500 miles out and found nothing. What became of Witchcraft and her passengers remains a mystery. Oh, and that's the end of it. Well, that's just insane to me. Well, anyways, let's go back here. Thought I had a different. Oh, I did too much. Oops. Once again, I'm doing too much. Did it, did it, did it. All right, well, maybe I will just go here. Maybe I'll come here. Yeah, let's go here. We can talk. Let's do some talking. Oh, yeah, so there's two. I'm going to delete that one. This will be the true one. What time is it? Oh, it's almost been an hour. Getting better. Oh, see? It has been almost an hour. But anyways, um, I really want to start doing these live streams on Fridays. It'll help because I'm gonna try to do another little self challenge for myself. I never usually tell anybody, it's usually just for myself. Like, I'm gonna do a little challenge. But, anyways, on that note, I hope that you have a good rest of your night. I appreciate you so much for watching my video. If you liked this live stream, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you would like to see more like this, please go ahead and subscribe. And as always, I really do appreciate you.